Dear CG thinkers, welcome! Today I'm going to explain you how to make this model. The time-lapse has been a big hit on the internet, and today I'm giving you a detailed tutorial so you can reproduce this model. I remind you that this tutorial is subtitled and the keys I use are displayed on the screen, so nothing should be missed. Here we are in Blender. Let's press the F key and ask for the creation of an object. I display the grid with a right click on the ground and then I draw a circle. I set the thickness to a value of 1.2 by moving the mouse to the right. Validate the operation by holding down the left click and moving the mouse to the validate button, then release. Let's hold down the left click and choose the second bevel. I ask for a right bevel and leave this adjustment. What I'm going to explain to you now, try to remember it, because it will come in useful more than once. I know I'm going to make a cut using a circular array. On the final model, we can see that there are 8 cuts distributed around the cylinder. So, the resolution of the cylinder must be a multiple of 8. 8, 16, 24, 40, 48. Here I will use 72. Let's change the resolution of the cylinder and type in the value 72 while holding down the Shift key, then Enter. Nothing more to do on the cylinder, we can quit. Finally, I add a bevel on my object using the F key and the Add Bevel button. I reduce the size to about 0.005. Now we'll make the door. My cylinder is selected. I switch to orthographic front view by pressing key 1. If it has not automatically switched to orthographic view, press key 5 on the keyboard. Pressing the F key to request a slice, a right click on the cylinder allows me to display the grid, and I draw a rectangle by clicking on the central dot. Little trick, press the W key to display the wireframe. Hold down the Shift key to draw your rectangle from the center. In this cut, you have to be a little clever. Put the corner of your rectangle in the middle of one face, not along one edge. Left click to validate the drawing and move your mouse to the left to cut into the cylinder. Validate the operation and add a first bevel. Again, be smart. Make sure the bevel stays on the face without interfering with an edge. Of course, any cuts made on a curved surface will produce artifacts. Pretend it's not there. That's advice. We'll deal with the artifact problems in the end. Don't try to fix the problems as they appear. Make your corrections at the end. Let's continue with the door. The door is selected and I request new cut, which is a slice. The left click on the door displays the grid for drawing. But here I want to draw freely. I hold Shift by right click, which displays the blue surface without the grid. I choose the Shape Drawing tool and hold down the Control key to use the snap system. Once the drawing is finished, Shift and left click to validate the drawing, and I move my mouse a little to left to cut into the door. Let's just continue with the addition of a first bevel. A reminder to those who might be attracted to delete the cut if it doesn't look right. Fluent is a non-destructive tool. Please don't redo, edit. You can select the Boolean object, enter edit mode, and move the vertices to get what you want. So I'm editing in the video a little demonstration of how you can modify the cut. Last elements of the door, the handle. I select the right side of the door and ask for a simple cut. I draw a rectangle and round the corners with the first bevel adjustment. I think I've said that a lot of time in my video, but it's always good to remind people of that. Everything is still editable. Here is a good example. I find that finally the handle is a little wide. By pressing the tab key, I switch to edit mode. I press S, X, and reduce the width. By pressing the tab key again, we return to object mode and we can see that the bevels overlap. Let's go back to the first bevel adjustment to reduce them and get a correct object. We finished with the door, select the cylinder and ask for a slice. Display the grid with right click and draw a thin rectangle like this. After validating the drawing with the click, hold down the left click and choose the cross button to automatically cross the whole object. We continue on the cylinder with a new slice. Display the blue surface without the grid with Shift and right click. We use the shape tool and the control key to draw this shape. After having validated with the key Shift and left click, I move my mouse a little to the left and I press V to cross the whole object. Get the mirror tool to perform a symmetry and make the cut perfectly centered. I perform exactly the same manipulation in the upper part that we have just created. Now let's select the upper part and ask for a simple cut. I draw a rectangle in the center before asking for a circular array. I place the cuts on the outside and ask for 8 repeats. I display the wireframe by pressing the W key to better see what is going on. I change the solidify by increasing it and change the offset to raise the object. We see that the cut is too wide. Once again, I use the tab key to enter edit mode and reduce the width of the cut by pressing the S key and the X key so that the cut fits on two faces. Back in object mode with the tab key and I continue editing by adding a second bevel to round the cut. We finished for the height part. Let us continue with the low part with the addition of the stands and the stair. Request a new cut and display the grid below and draw a small square in the center while holding down the Ctrl and Shift keys. Validate your square and extend the shape. Add a circular array of 4 elements and move it on the bevel of the cylinder. Then use the rotation tool. It works as follows. Click once on the red button and move the mouse to reach the 45 degrees. I said click and not hold the click, okay? Click a second time to deactivate the axis in use and click on the central button of the widget to exit the rotation tool. Once again, I press W to display the wireframe and better see what I am doing. I use the G key and the S key to move the stand-up and place them correctly. Now let's add the stairs. I keep the bottom part selected to make a simple cut. I display the grid on the top side of the stand and draw a rectangle in the center of the grid. Make good use of the first solidify tool to make your step. Understand that it is the offset that allows you to push the step more or less far into the stand. Bring the step back to float with the rotation tool. Again, click on the red dot, move the mouse for 45-degree rotation, left click to validate the axis, and click on the central button to exit the rotation tool. Of course, a stair doesn't have only one step. The next step is to use the array tool. The widget works the same way as for the rotation. First click on the axis you are interested in, move the mouse to adjust the spacing, press the C key to toggle between adjusting the number of repetitions and adjusting the distance between repetitions. Once you are satisfied, use the central button of the widget to validate and exit the tool. You will say I'm repeating myself, but that's the strength of Fluent. Don't forget, everything is editable. If you want to change the length or thickness of the step, you just have to switch to edit mode with Tab and use the S key to resize the step along the axis you want. I would also like to remind you that it's strongly advised to use local axis by pressing twice on the name of the axis to be sure to resize according to the orientation of the object. Last cut of the tutorial before moving on. I select my object and request a cut. I move to the side by pressing the 3 and into orthographic view by pressing 5 if needed. I simply draw a rectangle to make sure I have flat stand on the floor. It is quite possible that you have artifacts on your stand. For some reason, Blender sometimes fails to do the bevel. You just have to gently move the Boolean object up and down to find a position where Blender is willing to do its job. We are now done with all the cuts. It's time to fix the shading problems that are visible on the door. As we have no overlapping problems and only normal problems, we will massively use the normal repair tool. Select the object to repair. Press the F key and choose the normal repair button. The first step consists, if necessary, in merging the vertices which would be too close and which would generate overlapping. Here it's not the case, so I place my mouse on the left side of the screen and I make a left click to validate this step. The second step is to select the source object from which we will retrieve the normal that are not damaged. A small aside, if you are watching this tutorial several months after its release, it is possible that I have removed this step because in the vast majority of cases we always select the object that we are repairing. All you have to do is select the faces you want to repair. You are in edit mode, so all the usual Blender selection tools are available. Select the faces and press the Enter key. You can see that there is no problem of reflections. You can kit with the right click. I do exactly the same for the other side of the door. I then move on the rest of the object. The artifacts appear on the faces that are not quads. So I'm going to select all the faces are n-gons and then press the Enter key to correct them. This process is repeated one last time around the upper part of the object, all around the cuts that we made with the circular array. Last step of this tutorial, editing the fabric parts. By pressing the F key, access the Simulations Configuration panel. Here are my settings. Depending on the configuration of your computer, it may be useful to reduce the resolution perhaps around 6000 or 4000 depending on your processor. Having said that, select your cylinder, press F and click on the Cloth Panel button. The object automatically switches to edit mode. I have already done the calculation for you. To have a good distribution of cloth panel around the cylinder, select 9 faces to the right from the center. Then 9 faces to the left from the center. Continue your selection with the bottom part in a symmetrical way. Press the Enter key to start the rotopology and simulation. Do not touch anything until it's finished. The simulation stops by itself after 30 frames. Select the cylinder and repeat the operation by selecting each time 9 faces at the top and bottom. We reach the half of the module. I suggest you use a mirror modifier to replicate the fabric panels on the other side of the model. Select a panel, then add a mirror modifier. There is nothing else to do, since if you have drawn your model in the same orientation as I have, it is indeed along the x-axis that we want to make the symmetry. We are almost at the end. There is only one panel of fabric to make. I will modify the parameters of simulation like this. Select the upper part of the model and ask for a fabric panel. Select the whole surface and press the Enter key. Again, beware that the surface is larger than the others, so there will be more vertices and the computation time is necessarily a little longer. And here we are. We have just created a little survival model. You could see that in my little scene I ended up in a moonscape. I had a lot of fun making the landscape and the footstep from the stair. If you don't have the add-on yet, the links are in the description. For the others, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and that you learned a few things or even that it inspired you. If it's the case, don't hesitate to share your creations on the Discord. It's always a great pleasure to see your creations. Some of you push the concepts very far and it's a pleasure. If you haven't already done so, I invite you to subscribe. In any case, we will meet again soon because we get tired of everything except learning. Bye bye.